Welcome to @Cronkite News, your social sharing connection where you choose the news. Facebook likes and shares, tweets, retweets, and favorites. YouTube views and subscriptions. We're watching you watch us. From our digital home at cronkitenews.azpbs.org to your television, web browser, or mobile device. Let's get a refresh on the top Arizona news of the week.
It was a little over a month ago when former Sheriff Joe Arpaio was pardoned by President Donald Trump. Today, the federal judge in that case upheld that pardon and dismissed the guilty verdict against him. Cronkite News reporter Kevin Gessner was at the downtown courthouse and spoke with key players in the case.
It's over for former Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Today, Judge Bolton dismissed the guilty verdict with prejudice, meaning it can never be tried again.
And she ruled in no uncertain terms that the pardon is effective and there is nothing illegal or improper about it.
Former Sheriff Joe Arpaio's attorney is celebrating a win at the Sandra Day O'Connor Federal Courthouse without his client. Arpaio did not show up for today's hearing. Last July, Arpaio was found guilty of criminal contempt for, quote, flagrant disregard of a judge's order to stop targeting Latinos in traffic stops. Arpaio was pardoned by President Trump in late August. Both Arpaio's attorney as well as the U.S. Department of Justice lawyers asked that the verdict be dismissed, but there are still a few items to be determined.
Dismiss the case with prejudice. She is taking under advisement our request to vacate the verdict and all other orders and decisions in the court.
But there are others unhappy with today's outcome. Dr. Angeles Maldonado says this case is a loss for the country and the Latino community.
I think it's evidence that the nation basically now believes that violating the constitutional rights of our community is okay, and that people can do all of the things that the sheriff did, break up all the families that he did, pull people over for no reason just because we're brown.
According to Arpaio's attorney, he will be filing for sanctions with the people who filed what he calls meritless briefs with the court. As for the former sheriff, his record will be wiped clean. Live in the media center, Kevin Gessner, Cronkite News.
Not every child has access to a music education, but new federal guidelines show it's a key to a well-rounded education. Reporter Mia Atkins found a local music academy that wants to make sure students get the chance to play an instrument, even if they can't afford it.
Victoria Aurora is a student at Rosie's House, a music academy that gives free music lessons and instruments to children who are economically disadvantaged.
I'm very lucky to have private lessons because Rosie's House gives these opportunities to low-income families.
Not only does Rosie's House improve its students' musical abilities, it also improves academic success, leadership skills, and social skills. According to Carolee Hagan, president of the Arizona Music Educators Association, for the first time, music is listed as an essential part of a well-rounded education under the federal Every Student Succeeds Act.
Now, specifically, we can say, music is important and is justified in its own right.
Music teacher Katie Valadez says elementary to high school students who learn to play are investing in their future.
Being a student at Rosie's House requires a certain level of commitment and dedication. It takes that kind of commitment and hard work to apply to college.
Hagan says that playing in a music ensemble can prepare students for more than an audition.
They become more and more confident in how to handle themselves. I tell them it's as if you are walking into an interview.
Aurora practices the flute for hours and has become used to playing in front of a crowd.
Through dedication, you can achieve anything. So I have dedicated myself to practicing.
97% of Rosie's House students that graduate high school go on to enroll in college. In Phoenix, Mia Atkins, Cronkite News.
Arizona Congressman Trent Franks is making a case to the Senate to pass the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, a bill that would ban most abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy. Cronkite News reporter Bailey Vogt is live in our Washington bureau with the latest. Bailey?
This would not be the first time the House has passed Congressman Franks' bill. Similar versions were passed in both 2013 and 2015, but those bills failed in the Senate each time, and both sides say the Senate is expected to be the hurdle again this year. That has not stopped Congressman Franks from trying again.
No matter what else they do in this chamber, I believe they will look back on that day as a day they stood for those who could not protect themselves, for the least of their little brothers and sisters.
Arizona Representative Trent Franks continued to promote his Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, which passed the House yesterday. The bill would make it a crime to perform an abortion after 20 weeks of pregnancy, except in cases of rape, incest, or where the mother's life is in danger.
This, for the first time, would say there is a line in the sand after 20 weeks that we're not going to go past, and we will actually protect an entire class of unborn babies. This would actually impact about 18,000 lives a year.
Mallory Quigley of the pro-life Susan B. Anthony list said that this bill would be the first to force a time limit. The bill's supporters claim that 20 weeks is the point at which a fetus can feel pain.
This is really something that speaks to loving both the mother and the child. And that message really does resonate with women across the country.
Kaylee Hansen-Long of NARAL Pro-Choice America says that far from helping women, the bill would control their choices on what's best for them.
What will happen if this bill passes is that women who face these situations will not have options to decide what to do with their bodies, about their health, and the future of their families.
Long says that's a decision that should be left to women and hopes the Senate agrees with her.
This is something that politicians in Washington who believe they know what's best for a woman, but they believe they know better than a woman herself what she should do about her health care.
As in years past, the bill faces an uphill fight in the Senate, where supporters will need to get a 60-vote majority to force the measure to the floor. One thing is different this year, though. The President Donald Trump has promised to sign this bill if it reaches his desk. In Washington, Bailey Vogt, Cronkite News.
A recent graduate from the University of Arizona is one of the latest confirmed deaths from the shooting. Cronkite News reporter Tyler Paley is in Las Vegas tracking the latest and talking to other Arizonans who are also there.
U of A alum Christiana Duarte was one of those killed Sunday night here in Las Vegas. Dozens of Arizonans were right here in Las Vegas at that concert, and nearly 48 hours later, they're reflecting back on their horrific experiences. This was the scene on Sunday night at the Route 91 Harvest Festival as a gunman opened fire on the crowd.
The first shots probably must have landed, it seemed, about 15, 20 feet behind where we were standing.
Now 2 days after the shooting, Arizonans who experienced the chaos say they've had time to digest it all, but it's still so surreal.
It's a normal day, I guess. I don't know. I still don't know. I couldn't sleep. A lot of my friends can't sleep right now. You saw a lot of things. You got blood on your hands. Now I'm just trying to keep in touch with people and contact them.
Uhart was one of the lucky ones. The news of Christiana Duarte's death broke earlier today, and the wife of a Salt River police officer is reportedly on life support in a Las Vegas hospital. But for Uhart, stopping to help was instinctual. He just wishes he could have done more.
It was fight or fight, I guess, and I have no idea. It was just instantly, I was going to go stop him. I wasn't going to run. I just wanted to help or anything that I could. I couldn't really do much.
But moving forward, Crocker won't think twice before attending another similar event. In fact, he's already decided he'll be back here next year because he refuses to let terror win.
Thousands of people I saw shine through the darkest moment that I've ever experienced and showed what humanity is all about and show what it was in that particular instance to be, I think, the absolute best of our country.
President Trump and House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy are planning a trip here to Las Vegas tomorrow. But for now, live in Las Vegas tonight, Tyler Paley, Cronkite News.
Former U.S. Representative Gabby Giffords, who was severely injured in a mass shooting in Tucson, is calling again for gun reform in Washington, D.C. Cronkite News reporter Fraser Allen Best was there for the news conference.
The nation's counting on you. Thank you.
Raising her fist in the air, words were brief but powerful from former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords. Giffords was herself the victim of a shooting in 2011 outside a Safeway store in Tucson that left 6 others dead.
Days like today remind us and many others how quickly things can change.
But the statements were not confined to expressions of condolences. Giffords' husband, Mark Kelly, focused on specific policy changes, including a call for universal background checks. More specifically, he pointed to the White House.
We need a president who recognizes that we have a gun violence problem.
President Trump did call for a moment of silence today for victims and their families. Earlier this morning, he addressed the tragedy.
We pray for the day when evil is banished and the innocent are safe from hatred and from fear.
Finally, Kelly stressed the cost of inaction.
We can accept that folks like Gabby will just have to pay the price for the status quo.
Giffords and Kelly run a foundation, Americans for Responsible Solutions, a nonprofit and a super PAC that calls for better gun control laws. Fraser Allen Best, Cronkite News, Washington.
One of the hurricane survivors is an Arizonan who was vacationing on the island. She's now helping victims still there by coordinating donations here. Cronkite News reporter Fortessa Latifi brings us her story of survival and giving back.
The wind and the rain and the wind just banging against the building and not knowing what was going on.
11 days after Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico, Lilian Ortiz is still reliving that fateful day. The Valley resident of Puerto Rican descent happened to be vacationing on the island with her boyfriend when the storm hit. They were left completely cut off from the rest of the world.
But I think the worst was not being able to communicate, not knowing or letting your family know that you were okay.
Over the weekend, she was one of dozens of volunteers who gathered in this warehouse collecting supplies for the victims in Puerto Rico.
Everything that you see here has been donated, from the warehouse space to the supplies, and even the pizza that the volunteers had for lunch.
Congressman Raul Grijalva says President Trump has not done enough to help the victims in Puerto Rico.
And the Puerto Rican community here has responded with great strength and without any fanfare. Let's compare that to what is going on with this administration. We're going on 10 days.
Zulema Rodriguez, one of the organizers of the donation drive, has a message for President Trump.
Don't go to my island to just tour it. Go there if you mean it. Don't go there just to say you went. We don't want you unless you're going to actually do something.
However, the president did say he'll be in Puerto Rico on Tuesday, assisting and supporting the people in their time of need. After surviving the hurricane, Ortiz says one thing is clear to her.
How precious life is, how we're spoiled. We're spoiled. You know, electricity, water, modern technology. You take a lot of things for granted. So I think it's more appreciating now what we have.
Fortessa Latifi, Cronkite News.
Do you know your rights during a protest? Do you know what a legal observer is? Cronkite News reporter Steven Sidner went to a legal training in Phoenix to find out what your rights are during a protest.
I just heard boom, the flash bangs and the immediate cloud, and it was a very chaotic and dangerous scene.
Russell Fedorke was 70 yards from the police barriers in August. When violence broke out, Phoenix police say officers deployed pepper spray, flashbangs, and foam bullets dispersed the crowd after water bottles were thrown at them. Fedorke believes his rights were violated that night.
Even if it was water bottles, there was no reason for the cops to start shooting.
Practically, I've seen police bring out weapons when there's no sign of a threat at all.
Williams says that every case is different.
But as a general rule of thumb, I would be very cognizant of officers' behaviors, and I don't trust officers to be safe or to be nonviolent.
Williams says people can and should register as legal observers.
They're able to observe what the public is actually doing, if there actually were any threats to police officers, and they let police officers know that they're there, so that police officers don't feel like they can take liberties with what actually happened.
The ACLU said in a press release that they had more than 70 legal observers at the Trump rally. Phoenix Police Chief Jerry Williams says there is an internal review of the police department's actions. In Phoenix, Steven Sidner, Cronkite News.
There are a few different organizations who train legal observers. To find out more about how to become a legal observer, contact your local organization. People from the Valley are leaving to help victims in Puerto Rico.
Our reporter Emily Bloom talked with some of them.
Yeah, Maya, the relief efforts there in Puerto Rico are just really struggling because of how severe the damage is. They're having a hard time even getting the supplies that they need to help them out across the island. While some areas do have power now, experts predict it will be months before the entire island is back up and running. Well, now some local Red Cross volunteers are gearing up to head out there.
13,000 Red Cross volunteers and workers have stepped forward in response to the 3 hurricanes that have rocked our nation in the last 2 months. And a few more are on their way.
Compassion without training is its own disaster.
Tom Batson works with volunteers for the Red Cross here in Arizona.
The more tools they have before they get there, the better they are at providing that service delivery that we want for our clients.
He is preparing 5 volunteers for deployment to Puerto Rico.
It feeds your soul when you're able to help out people.
And Derek Weber knows that firsthand.
It was an awesome existential experience for me.
He was motivated to help after his wife talked about donating to the Red Cross.
I was like, well, got a better idea.
2 days later, he was in Houston passing out pizzas.
Some people would cry and some people were thank you, and the kids like couldn't believe it.
And he is ready to head out again.
Every volunteer goes through an online class, but those that are assigned a specialty task come here for some training that's a little bit more hands-on.
Volunteer Rhonda Pashka will be volunteering for her first time. She was moved when she saw a close friend impacted by Harvey.
Her house was basically submerged.
She is a bit nervous as she heads to Puerto Rico, not knowing what to expect. But with a little recruitment.
I have friends who originally are from Puerto Rico, and they're with me.
She's got some support already.
I feel like it's a new beginning for me.
While volunteering on location is a huge support for those affected by these natural disasters, what you can do here should not be underestimated.
These volunteers are headed to Puerto Rico sometime in the next few weeks, and Tom Batson, who we heard from in that story, predicts the Red Cross of Phoenix could have people there up to a year. For more information on how you can help out right here in Phoenix, head to redcross.org.
The Arizona Department of Transportation is cracking down on identity theft with facial recognition software. I went down to the motor vehicle department to find out how it works. Arizona Department of Transportation began using a facial recognition technology in 2015 to protect Arizonans from identity theft. It's a process that begins when a person goes to register or renew a driver's license.
Once you get your photo taken, that photo is then run through the database and it's matched up against all the other photos in the database, which there's like 18 or 19 million. And it will try to find similar matches.
If the system finds a similar match, the MVD will put a temporary hold on the ID before it prints a permanent license, and an investigation will begin. There have been over 100 identity theft cases brought to court by ADOT using this facial recognition technology, the most recent being an 89-year-old using his deceased brother's identity to cash Social Security checks.
He had an ID in his name and an ID in his brother's name, and so it came up that these photos look very similar, so we did our review, we looked them over. Our detectives have FBI training in facial rec, and they determined, yeah, that's the same guy.
And since this is a fairly new technology, ASU professor Charles Loftus says there are some improvements that can be made to make this more effective.
It's a new system. I foresee agreements between states to be able to use different states' databases.
ADOT hopes this technology will prevent people from becoming victims of identity theft.
We want to deter those identity thieves. Don't try it because our system is going to catch you.
Although Harding says that they do their best to inform residents of the facial recognition technology, Professor Loftus has concerns about the privacy of these photos and says there could be legal issues concerning how long the photos are kept.
It's that time of year when lots of people who work outside feel a little relief, including southern Arizona ranchers. I met one who's using sustainable cattle ranching near Nogales.
Just try to be smarter than a cow, which has been a huge challenge to me.
Dean Fish's bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees in animal science and reproductive physiology show he has the book smarts at least over his herd. Fish says there are 3 keys when striving to become better with sustainability in ranching: economic, environmental, and social.
I want to continue to stay in business. In the livestock business, you're not going to become wealthy, but if you can make a fair living, I think that's my goal.
The environmental standpoint.
I want to leave this land in better shape than when I became the manager of it, became the caretaker of it.
And the socially acceptable standpoint.
You know, so we want to create a low stress situation. We want to make sure the cows are comfortable and that we're taking the proper care of those and doing a good job with that and producing beef for America.
Ranchers like Dean are working hard to implement sustainable practices, including water harvesting and pasture rotation on ranches just like this.
The more that we learn about the science of sustainably using land in cattle production, the more effective we can be, and the less the risk that we're going to do something irreversible that we're going to regret in the future.
With genetics and genomics coming into play, Dean buys bulls that he is able to obtain background information on, such as their ancestors' birth and weaning weights.
We can even finer tune those selection criteria based on what our goals are. You know, again, ultimately our goal is to produce a safe, wholesome, tasty, nutritious product that's going to go on America's plates.
Dean raises these Angus-based cows until they are 7 to 9 months old. Once they have reached the right size and wean age, he markets them through the livestock auction.
Probably the key to success for a livestock producer is to continue to seek out that knowledge, continue to strive to become better producers at whatever system they're doing. There's no one size fits all.
In Nogales, Holly Bach, Cronkite News.
Tonight, we're hoping to end on a lighter note from the nation's capital. Trevor Fay reports on a battle of paws over politics.
His is a classic rags to riches story. Born in tough conditions, now he's on Capitol Hill where he's running in an election. But this is not your ordinary politician. Meet Boomer, Arizona Congresswoman Martha McSally's golden retriever. McSally put him in the running for cutest pet on Capitol Hill, and it's not hard to see why.
He's amazing, honestly. I mean, anybody who has an animal knows the human-animal bond and what they do for you, just for your, your emotional support and, the unconditional love.
Boomer may be cute, but he has a naughty side. McSally says he has a habit of burying clothes in the yard.
My mom was visiting and we had her pajamas disappear, and then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, we find tops, bottoms, and socks all rolled up together behind the mesquite tree. A little piece of pink was sticking out, and Boomer decided to unearth it.
But McSally says she is able to forgive these shenanigans out of love for her special companion.
I'm just grateful to have Boomer in my life. Those of us who have rescues always say, who rescued who, right? And I mean, he is such an important part of my life. I just love him so much.
The Cutest Pets on Capitol Hill contest featured 3 categories: dogs, cats, even a hedgehog, with a total of 22 pets in the running through last weekend. In Washington, Trevor Fay, Cronkite News.
The winners will be announced during Pet Night on Capitol Hill this Wednesday.
When a story comes in the morning, we're out the door as fast as we can go.
But it's also great to spend more time in communities and produce projects.
From the borderlands to the cities, the reservations, and even the state capitol, we want to get to the heart of the matter.
When the lights come on in the studio, we know our hard work is about to pay off.
We love what we do here at Cronkite News.
We're proud to tell the stories of our state.
Now more than ever, it's important to have a trusted news source, and that's Cronkite News.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
Exploring, it's the lifeblood of the mission.
Human beings are a curious bunch.
What are we going to see when we get really close?
Just because an idea is crazy, it's not necessarily wrong.
We were on our way.
You don't get anywhere until you've tested the limits.
That carries an intensity you can't imagine.
You could hear people just, whoa.
Oh my God, absolutely spectacular.
It's a rush.
We ask a lot of our heroes.
We are at a remarkable moment.
We're going farther than any exploration ever has.
Now, here's an @Cronkite News pick of the week, a favorite from the Cronkite News staff.
Dinosaurs might be a thing of the past, but you can get up close to the creatures starting this week. Cronkite News reporter Holly Bernstein went to the Phoenix Zoo to find out how they are bringing the reptiles to the 21st century.
Anthony Contradas is like a kid in a candy store.
Bone! The bone from his mouth!
Except instead of a candy store, Anthony, along with other kids and families, is here traveling back in time to see the Dinosaurs in the Desert exhibit at the Phoenix Zoo, which officially opens to the public Friday. Anthony knows 3 kinds of dinosaurs:
T-Rex, Brontosaurus, and Triceratops.
But there are many more here at the zoo. Kids and adults can come to the Phoenix Zoo to see 23 of these dinosaurs, 17 of which are animatronics. The exhibit is open until the end of April. According to Phoenix Zoo PR strategist Carrie Bauman, these lifelike ferocious beasts are made by a company called the Dinosaur Company out of Texas.
I know there's steel and foam, a little bit of magic.
As the visitors interact with the exhibit, they'll also learn.
You'll get a field guide that'll talk about the different animals, why it is we painted them the way they are. Some of them are painted like animals, such as the Chiricahua leopard frog, which is a species that we're helping to conserve here at the zoo.
Bauman says there is a special story for each dinosaur.
Kept them upright when they walked.
Out of the dinosaurs here, Anthony has one favorite.
T-Rex.
And he doesn't mind the noise. In Phoenix, Holly Bernstein, Cronkite News.
The exhibit runs through April 30th, and tickets cost $4 for members and $5 for non-members.
Cronkite News tracks your likes, tweets, and shares from all our social sites to bring you this special at Cronkite News, our weekly refresh. Join the conversation so you choose the news. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, and log on to cronkitenews.azpbs.org for top Arizona stories anytime.